So I have Lebo and Neo. They are here in the studio with us in the last stretch of the show to help us make sense of this process of semigration and how it's impacting the property market space. So we hear that there are a lot of opportunities that have been booming through semigration, where then people are also taking time to prepare themselves before they can move and migrate wholly into their new property where this is concerned. So these guys are property investors and they know this space. So you at home, if you're one person that have questions, you're welcome to really touch base with us on 0861 987 000, and also be there by X so we can help you where this space is concerned, so you don't go at it really at a loss when you look at how I was talking about even an X post. I think it was about 2 weeks or 2 months ago, where someone was talking about guys, really the lookouts, you should look out for, the do's and the don'ts. And they were like, we were so excited with my partner that we're moving from a renting space, we're going into buying property for the first time, but we did not see the finer details and some of the things that we are not really looking up to or anticipating while moving into that space. So you don't want to find yourself like that person whereby you're counting the losses, you're frustrated. This property has become somewhat of a factor in terms of your finances, causing a dent, you working at a loss, then you celebrating and appreciating where you find yourself. So you need to really position yourself, and this is where the Nong brothers come in here at Nong Wealth to help you get the best out of this space. So even if you want to go into property investments, there's an opportunity there. It's cool. It's a cool sector to be part of. Not an easy one, but a cool one because I attended one of the sessions that the guys holds usually in terms of just the breakaways and trying to school people around a property. And I must say, it's a very interesting space. So you're spoiled for choice where this space is concerned. And I'm suspecting that even this morning, you're going to learn a thing or two around what we're talking about on 0861 987 000. There at X, we go by @Katlego_Lerodi_. Also, we're railing behind the hashtag Power Zone this morning on @Power FM 987. Lebo, Neo, good morning, guys. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to the listeners. It's always awesome to be here early in the morning.
I was getting worried. I'm like, these guys, are they coming in? Are they not coming in? But one thing that I'm certain of is the consistency and the commitment to this craft, this space, the course. And we find you guys here. Neo, are you well?
I'm great, thanks. It was Lebo's birthday yesterday. And
what?
I'm really excited that he pitched, man. You know, sometimes you'll never know when it's someone's birthday.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but he's here with us.
Happy belated birthday. We're hoping that it was nice and that you're really ready for the year ahead, because a birthday is a new year. So your new year has already started. We're waiting for Happy New Year 31st, when yours has already started because you're in the new year already. But happy birthday, bro.
Thank you very much.
I know you're most welcome, man. Semigration. Let's talk about this, guys, and where what is happening. These developments within the property space. We're hearing that this is a factor. We're hearing that people are starting there in semigrating and then really positioning yourself to get your own property. What is semigration? Maybe for someone that is listening to us for the first time, and they're like, and I was saying to the listeners as well when starting the show, I was saying that you may find that you're busy in the middle of a semigration and you're not even aware of it, and that this is a semigration of some sort. But then school us, what is semigration and how do people really find themselves moving into this whole space?
Okay, so what semigration basically is someone moving from their hometown into another home. Right. So now basically, say for instance, if I'm in Johannesburg and I got a better opportunity in Cape Town, or I'm saying that the service delivery is better in maybe Cape Town, then I'm moving from Johannesburg to Cape Town. That's called the semigration.
So you're migrating, but then basically into another space.
Yes.
And does this then see you at this point in time, because you've gotten that opportunity, now having to fend and look for property to stay, because you've got to have a roof over your head, and this movement within your life is forcing you into that space? Is this where then we see people pushing to rent? Yes. or their likes because you are now having this particular development in your life?
Spot on. That's where it pushes a lot of people rather to move into the rental space. Because when I was even shocked, there's a client of ours whereby we're working hand in hand with. They just recently moved in Johannesburg because of a job opportunity, and they were looking for a property to rent out. It was at about 14,000, and there was so much demand for it. That actually shows you the appetite, because sometimes you telling yourself that the apartment I'm renting out is 8,000, and I'm thinking, wow, it can't get above that. But there is a demand, especially when it comes to if there's opportunities, of which when it comes to Semigration's jobs being number one.
Yeah, so you can never say that there would then be a dry moment where this space is concerned, because of the fact that you're seeing people move around looking for better opportunities and the likes. Do you see them maybe probably then opting to start first with the renting, just to suss out the environment, or there are those that would just say to you, listen, I'm leaving Johannesburg, moving into Limpopo, I need a property and I'm not willing to rent, I want to buy, and then maybe let's go about seeing us maybe move this property that I have in Johannesburg, and then so it can make funds available or help position me better for a property elsewhere. Do we still consider that as semigration, or it's something totally different?
Yeah. So remember, with Semigration, the reason why I'm moving towards this area is because of a job opportunity. So I'm not necessarily planting my roots in that area. I'm just there for the job opportunity. So what we see most of the time happening is that people would then say that I'm going to rent out a property. And then should anything happen, I know that I'm still going home. I mean, you look at Johannesburg around the 25th to the 30th. Yes, listen.
When people just moving out, and even now with the festive season, whereby you're starting to see the roads getting more clearer and the likes, traffic. So people are not really here to stay, or they're here just, it's not a home, but it's still home, right?
Home away from home.
Yeah. So that is semigration, because it gives you a sense of the fact that this person was not born here, or they've not in any way more or less solidified their roots here. Hence, you often find them moving out and going elsewhere to find a space. Is this something that you find it to be a fixed kind of an arrangement, or over time you tend to see people saying that I'm done with this whole renting space of a thing? I was just sussing out the environment to say, is this job going to be something that will carry me through the test of time? And do I now need to find myself breaking away from my initial property, the one that it's a family home of some sort, and now moving into a new space altogether, even adding one more property to the original one, but not doing away with that original one because it remains a family home?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from its most practical sense, that's what happens most of the time, whereby, okay, now we got an opportunity somewhere, we go out and rent, look at the place in terms of, is the opportunity? And then you find out that if affordability is on your side, that's when they'll be like, okay, let me rather buy another one where I'm currently working. So ultimately, if I am to move back home, I'll be renting out this one. So again, affordability is a factor whereby sometimes if it doesn't enable me, I'd rather rent. And then if, let's say, it does enable me, I'd buy a house there in the area whereby I'm working. And then ultimately the end goal would be then, if there's no opportunity, or if I do lose my job, I go back home and rent out that property.
So this is where then we see people moving into whole leasing, the lease agreements, space, to say that these are the do's and the don'ts. You are basically operating under a lease of some sort, meaning that you've basically got a landlord that is now taking care of all of these things and the likes. And do we then see, all of those things like levies and everything else taken into consideration when one is moving into this space?
Yeah, 100%. Now, just to add on what Neo was saying, right? When you're looking at semigration, especially in South Africa, you're looking at the hotspot being the Western Cape, right? And now I was reading this Lightstone report, and they were saying that 59% of new homeowners are coming from Gauteng. So now looking at that actually confirms what we're saying right now, that after a while people do warm up to living in that area and finally take that decision of saying that, you know what, this is a property that I'm going to be buying to be living in. Yes, it might not be my home, however, because I'm working in this area and I've been renting for so long, might as well just buy a property in this area. Now, going back to the question that you were asking in terms of lease agreements and the levies and stuff. Now, it does happen that people are actually going in towards the rental space. Now, we're having a talk with students saying that, guys, it might, when you look at it, it might actually be cheaper to be renting than to be buying. Now, why we say that is that if I'm buying a property, I'm having all of these things that I have to actually pay on a monthly basis. So you have your bond, you have your levies, you have your rates and taxes, right? Now we're looking at this particular area, this particular complex rather, and the guy that was owning was actually paying 12,050 rand. Now on the other hand, the other guy that was renting out was only paying 7,500 on a monthly basis, right? For rent, towards rent. Now the question was that, would it be easier for me to rent or would it be easier for me to actually buy? Now the conversation was that it's cheaper for you to rent out a property, and that's a fact. However, looking at it from a long-term perspective, if you're not doing anything with the difference between what you're renting out for and what you would have been paying if you were owning the property, then you're at a back foot.
Sure. So you really need to calculate here and be calculative about how you move. But then we find you guys, right, where you'd advise me to say, hey, Katla, looking at how and what's happening here, maybe it's probably better if you consider moving into the whole renting or the buying space. And it's a case by case, I guess, where these people are concerned. But also when you look at it as well, would you say that there has been like a younger generation, like every time that you see, because we're living in an economy whereby there are issues, challenges economically and wise, so you find a person wanting to always better themselves. That is where then semigration always moves in, whereby people want proximity, closer proximity to the school, to work, to church, and the likes and everything else. And you find that it's this younger generation that is now moving into this whole semigration space. And I'm glad that you mentioned Cape Town, because it's the epicenter right now. When you look at what is happening and doing research, I saw that people are migrating into Cape Town, and that is where you find semigration really booming there in that space.
Yeah. And Katlego, you mentioned something when it comes to closer proximity. And that's something that we need to take consideration, because now when you're moving and only to find out that there's additional costs, petrol, and now you're finding yourself in a situation whereby you're taking out more, I think we need to really take into consideration of other external expenses that influence the decision, man.
Yeah, I mean, really, the economy, nowadays you're just calculating, right, of everything else that you're doing, because of the fact that you find yourself in this particular economy. And I guess it's just one of those spaces whereby if you're able to maybe probably maintain the same old property and while renting at the same time, and then do it, because I guess it will not be prudent for you to now be shelving off, selling everything else, moving into this new space when you could have gotten the best of both. How would you advise someone that is in that particular predicament to say, I don't know, should I give up on this one? This element of uncertainty as well. It's still a new job. I'm not sure if I'm going to like this job. 5 years later, I'll still be being here. So do you really find you as yourself really having to advise someone to say, no, man, instead let's move into sell that one and then dispose it, or rent it out, make a business out of it, and then move into the renting space, and that's how then you get into property investments?
Yeah, so I would say that if you're going to be looking at a property, especially when you are, Neo right now, for example, whenever he's buying a property, even for personal, right, I think that he would be buying a property thinking or having in mind that if I was to rent it out, would it actually make sense? Now, the problem is that most of the time we buy properties saying that I'm going to be living in this property. You move out only to find out that if I'm going to move out of this property and rent it out, I'll still be making a loss on a monthly basis. Now, the question would then be that, is it really feasible for me to still hold this property while I'm away from this property? Now, that's where it's like, okay, maybe I should actually sell this property, because now if I'm still needing to take out 3,000 on a monthly basis just to maintain this property, and now on the other side I still have rent, now the question would then be that, is it really worth it for me to hold this property? And now going into the question that you're saying that our generation, we are more likely to move if a job opportunity calls. If Neo gets better opportunity in Cape Town right now, or he has a way of planting roots for non-wealth in Cape Town, Neo is going to be moving. Now the question is, with the assets that he has here, did he consider that before he actually bought the property? Because most of the time we want to force the property to become a business, and in actual fact it isn't a business.
So there's a lot to consider, all right? And I guess for us as young people, more or less we need to tread carefully and be more or less careful around this space, because we operate on excitement, on emotions. So I'd be like, an opportunity, Cape Town, let's go, you know what I mean? I'm not thinking of so the implications, right? What is going to happen? How do I get there and make sure that I don't lose this property or it doesn't deteriorate while I'm living large there as now in Cape Town, because I'm trying to get the best out of what the mother city has in store for us. But I have Tapelo here, who's on the line, who's calling us, who wants to speak about Semigration. And yeah, Tapelo, welcome. I have Neo and Lebo here in the studio, property gurus. Let's go.
Thank you, Katlego.
Sure.
Neo and Lebo, the concept is great, but we must not promote perpetual poverty. Once somebody have invested, let's promote that investment, especially in property. It doesn't matter whether you want to leave Cape Town and go to Kabeja, East London, Durban, and the like. But that property remains yours. Somebody else utilizes the property. So I want this thing to be a sustainable plan, such that we don't promote perpetual poverty, that I was a big shot in Cape Town, I come back to Gauteng, tomorrow I'm nothing. So
100%.
that's a big advice that I want to give you. Don't advise people to just live life today and then as if there's no tomorrow. I was listening and I'm interested in the model, but allow them to invest and leave the investment so that it matures. Once the investment matures, then they can buy anything everywhere in the world. By the way, South Africa is not an island. We can have properties even in London. Thank you very much.
Tapelo, thank you very much, man, for the call, Tapelo. Investment is key, right? And especially when the economy is something that is so tricky. So you don't want to find yourself in the red, finding yourself having lived large, and then 3, 5, 7 years later, you're scrambling, you're starting from scratch because you didn't guard that investment.
Yeah. I would say 100%. That's correct, and that's what we advocate for. Property, right? We've never said that. I mean, personally, I don't know how stocks, that works, right? But I'm a true fan of property because I've seen how it actually works. However, I don't want us to also shy away from what happens in reality, whereby someone buys a property and then they're renting it out, and then when they lose their job, the first thing that they sell is their property. We're seeing a lot of cases where people are actually having to go to auction with their property because they can't afford it anymore. Hence, we are saying that if you have bought the property with the intention of actually renting it out, then it needs to make business sense. I'll make a quick example, right? If, say, for instance, I'm having a property right now that needs me to take out 3,000 on a monthly basis from my pocket, and then 5 years down the line, the economy does what's going on right now, and I lose my job, the first thing that I'm going to sell is my property because I can't afford it anymore. However, where you have the inverse of that situation whereby the property is giving me 3,000 on a monthly basis after all expenses, then if I lose my job, I know that I'm not going to sell the property because I'm still getting income from that property.
So it's investments, right?
That's it.
Actually the investment game, the way you balance everything else to say you need to protect yourself as much as you can, but also take into consideration the fact that we are in this trying economic climate whereby anything can happen. So better safe than sorry. But I was really interested in what Tapelo said there, or you can can I semigrate in London and semigrate in the US? So is this like something that is across board, as long as basically there's an opportunity elsewhere, and there is that opportunity as well to semigrate in the US, in Dubai, in all of these other spaces outside of South Africa?
Yes, you can, but then again, understand the trend, because we've noticed that we've had clients from the UK, and most of the guys are actually buying this side because of how expensive properties are in the UK. So again, now it questions that thing of what is sustainability, because if sustainability for Lebo is that I need a high return on investment on the type of property that I'm buying, then it changes the whole game in terms of what is a property that's worth biting for when it comes to investment.
Really approach this with caution, or approach it responsibly. Don't go at it alone. I mean, just pick up a call the guys, the Nong brothers. They'll sort you out. Even the minute of a question that you may think it's a stupid question, it can save you millions or hundreds, because of the fact that one mistake can find you just having set yourself back, a strong fold, because of the fact that you did not ask for advice. You did not really in any way position yourself to get the best out of what is happening. Parting shots, gentlemen, birthday guy, let's say goodbyes so we can make way for the Power Up team. In terms of known wealth, what's in the pipeline? How can people reach you guys? And really, would you say that Semigration is the way to go?
Semigration affects affordability, and that's something that we need to take into consideration. Affordability, yeah.
And looking at what the year has for us, I think right now we just trying to gather our thoughts and understand what happened this year. But if you want to reach out to us, you can on all social media. It's at Nongwealth, and then if you do want to send us an email, it's info@nongwealth.co.za.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming through, for giving us your time, for schooling us as always, and for just being upbeat about the property space. I consider you guys as ninjas in this game because I can call you guys and say, hey guys, please help me out here. And I know that you'll have the answers for me. And even if maybe you don't have the answers at that time, you'll direct me to his pet or to someone else that can help us here. But just the message out there that you're not alone, and let's try by all means, as black people, especially young black people, to take advantage of this property space. And we have the Nong brothers here. They're young as well, they're dynamic, and they're doing a lot of work to really push us into this particular space. Let's invest, let's create that culture. Let's start by all means to empower ourselves, and this could help us just create a generation of wealth for ourselves and our loved ones. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming through.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.